Hey folks, thank you for joining us for another exciting episode of YOMO. This is the Year of Magical Learning podcast. Today we are doing Reflection 233, believe it or not, and we are looking at a book. It's called Undistracted. Capture Your Purpose, Rediscover Your Joy by Bob Goff.
Yeah, man, I can't love this book. Bob's one of my absolute favorite authors. Just favorite people. He's not a great writer actually, but he's an amazing person. So if you remember back from Love Does is a book that we did earlier in this.
That's what.
Yeah. And then we also did Live in Grace, Walk in Love, which is my daily like little reflection journal that I keep. I like, we'll read a reflection from somebody else and I'll write my own thoughts about it, just kind of get my mind going. So Bob and I spent a whole year together as well, every day, going through his daily, similar to the Year of Magical Learning, like just reflections about his life and living in grace and walking in love, right? So he also has written a lot of other really good books that are pretty popular out there, but he's actually like a career lawyer, and he's like one of just the most interesting people in the world, kind of thing. Like
A guy with a purpose.
He's a guy with a purpose. Yeah. I mean, he's like an ambassador to Uganda. He's just always there for his friends. The craziest situations happen. He just loves everybody. Honestly, the guy just loves everybody. He's just full of love. The book that he wrote, Love Does, is very synonymous with his purpose. We talk a lot about beavering on purpose in this journey. Bob Goff is beavering on purpose.
Purpose, you said?
Yeah, like when you're a beaver must dam. Bob Goff keeps it straight on purpose, all day long, kind of thing. So a friend of mine recommended this book to me because he was like, "Oh, hey, did you see the new Bob Goff book?" And I was like, "Oh no, I didn't see it." And then he was like, "Yeah, no, he just released this book called Undistracted." And I was like, "You should check it out." And I was like, "Of course, yeah. I mean, it's Bob Goff. I'm all in, so it's fun. It's always a fun journey with him, even though it's not like the best book ever or anything like that. But it's always just a fun journey just to hear his stories. And so true. You and I talked about this yesterday. Like, talk about soul in the game. Like Bob Goff has his soul in the game. And it's just something you just, it just is. It's attraction. Like, it's an attractive thing for people to want to navigate, gravitate towards. So the reflection from this book was actually about a distraction check. This is something that Bob Goff does for himself to make sure that he's still on purpose, I guess, in general. So when I wrote this reflection, I started this off by saying, I got a confession. I have been distracted for the past month before I wrote this particular reflection, before I read this book. It was perfect timing for this book, to be honest with you. As you guys know, my personal life's purpose these days is what I call living for two, which is when I'm able to perform, bring my values to life. That's when I get into a flow state. And when I find that flow state with doing the things that I love on purpose, I'm able to still find a way to connect with my daughter in those moments. And that's why it's so important for me to try to find that way to keep her in my life and to keep a relationship with her and find those moments with her every single day. So that's what my life's purpose has become, right? And that's how Your Magical Learning started and all this other stuff that we've been doing. It's all been just things that we all love to do together, and finding more and more people, helping to encourage them to do the stuff that they love and figuring out what their purpose is, right? Normally, it's pretty easy for me to do these days at this point in time. I mean, we're 3.5 years into this journey and 3+ years into this journey. You guys, I think I've told you my normal routine, but in the morning, it's her and I spending time together writing and doing a reflection and then working on whatever writing project they're working on, i.e. Your Magical Learning for the past 18 months or 16 months or whatever it's been. And then we'll flip it over into learning, from some book together, learning about some new concepts and having a good time. And then we'll go take a run together or go do some exercise, get some movement, and, just spend all that time with each other. And then from there, we jump into our work day, whatever that it consists of. We actually, changed our entire work life to be able to spend more time during that work day. When I wrote this one, I was still at Salesforce when it really was just work. Now it's more aligned to, I get to spend more time with her during the course of the day because we're helping to mentor and help other people to find meaningful work and things like that, which is important to us. And then at the end of the day, we get to spend time with True or go play tennis or whatever and do this stuff, right? So normally that's our normal day, and it's usually pretty easy. And whenever I struggle these days to try to find the energy, I just think of her and all the things that she went through and what she taught me. It's easy to build that reminder in my mind to say, if she could do what she did, I can, do another day of spending time with her and finding that time. It was relatively easy most days for me, just because I love spending time with her and I can find those moments. And we talked about this in the last one with the alchemist and not dropping the spoon, but at the same time seeing the castle, right? Amelia helps me to do that every single day as we're doing these activities with her. Well, unfortunately, a month before this book, I was super distracted. It was really, really hard to live for two every single day. It all started when my family got COVID. So our nanny, who came over here every single day in the morning, got COVID. And so she got my son sick, and then my son got my wife sick, and then my wife got me sick. And so for like 3 weeks, we were all locked down, away from everybody. Our nanny couldn't even come over because she was still recovering. And that was when we still had like protocols and shit you should follow with COVID, which you probably still do. But I mean, like, we were locked down in our home for 2 weeks without childcare help, and whatever, that's fine. We were still working full time at the same time. So I was still able to do all my stuff with Amelia. It wasn't easy, but it was what it was. Literally about a day or two after that finished, our AC went out, and it was like the hottest damn summer. That was like, I mean, it was like 95 degrees out or whatever, and super humid. It was gross here in Indiana. And Drew's probably laughing because he's like, oh, it's like every day in Texas, but like, in Indiana, that's not that's not how we roll up here, and my house was like just insanely hot, and it was getting gross, and we had every fan on and windows open, and it was not cooling down in here. And we were actually starting to worry about Luca's safety. So we were like, okay, we tried to stick it out for like a night or two, and we were like, and called the AC company. They came out and they confirmed like our AC was shot. And then we were like, oh, well, shit. Well, now we're gonna have to go to the warranty company, and we're gonna see if we can, get this thing to be covered. And they did. They said, hey, we'll cover it, but it's gonna take weeks before we can, come out, evaluate it, figure out all the parts. We tried to stick it out and stay here, but we just couldn't. One day, finally, I had enough. We were worried about Luca's safety. It was really, really hot in here. It was like 88 degrees in our house or something like that, and it was just going up. I called my parents, and I was like, we need help. We got to go somewhere. I was like, can I come home for a couple days or whatever it is? And they were like, yeah, of course. So we grabbed all of our, threw some clothes into a hamper and grabbed their laundry baskets and chucked them in the car, took a bunch of Luca's stuff down to my parents' house, and we had only plans to maybe stay for like 2 or 3 days or something like that. Well, those 2 or 3 days turned into three full weeks. So now not only am I out of my house, we don't have any of our stuff. We're going back and forth from our house all the time because we weren't planning on any of these things. Like shipments are still coming to our house. Our neighbors are like getting all of our mail all the time. And, and we're like, we have no idea when we're going to be able to get back to our house. I'm trying to do, write in a weird space every morning when I got my dad and my mom, screaming and yelling and, whatever, and do whatever the hell they're doing in the mornings. And, I got, a new place where I can't really work out the way I normally want to because I'm not, in my own spot. I can't do all these things right. And every day just felt like a slog, and it was just distracting as hell. And my brain was like frying, and I was frustrated with our house and dealing with all that stuff. And then I'm, arguing with the warranty company, and we're still all kind of recovering from COVID a little bit. And it was just a lot. It was getting to be a lot where I was just feeling like overwhelmed. Right. Then I was reading this book at the same time, and it kind of just stopped me and reminded me like, living for two with my daughter has nothing to do with what I do every single day. It's the feeling of living the things that I like to do in this world, and that feeling that I get, and then being able to share that with my daughter. And it's never about the habit or the routine or anything like that, right? I can change whatever I want to change in order to still live my purpose. You get so stuck in a routine sometimes where you're like, well, if this is all jacked up, then I get all screwed up. And this was just a great reminder for me to be like, look, this isn't about this. This is about staying on purpose and spending time with my daughter. And wherever that comes, whatever form that takes, like, that's fine. Like, just go find new ways to go live that life. So this was a great reminder to me of what I called the distraction check is the title. This is what Bob does every week, of like, checking in with himself. And I decided to use my weekly visit to my daughter. I go visit her every Sunday at the cemetery. Now we use this as almost like our weekly L10 meeting where we do a distraction check of like, are we still on purpose? Are we still living for two? Are we still doing what we're supposed to do every single week? And her and I get to check in with each other and just kind of get our mind right. This is a good book to remind yourself of, like, it's not about what you do. It's about why you do it. And it's about keeping that in mind, right? Routines can change, environments can change, but if you have your bearings straight, it can really help overall in terms of reminding yourself what you're doing. So the question for you all, or you can answer whatever, or talk about whatever you want to talk about with this one, is what can you do when distractions feel like they're pulling you away from your purpose, and how do you keep yourself back in line and remind yourself to like, what you're doing for, you know what I mean? Love to get your guys' thoughts.
Okay, I can go. So I think Chris has been asking me these questions for a couple of days straight in a row already. He asks me, "Hey, Drew, what's new?" And I keep saying nothing. Right? This is so it reminds me. So when Chris was going through his day routine, I say, well, the thing is, he does this every morning. He does this after that, and then these after these, and then in the evening he does a little bit of this. It reminds me of the Mexican fisherman. I slept a late, I fished a little, I play with my children, take my siesta with my wife, and stroll down the beach, have a cup of coffee, chat with my buddy.
Nothing.
And
He's
so
doing
I think
stuff, but nothing's new.
exactly, nothing's new. So I think the thing is, we also talked about this before, is once you have your compass, your core values that guides you, it doesn't matter what throws you out of your particular normalcy, you gonna feel like there's something's missing. For example, me and Chris, sometimes we're on this holiday vacation or whatnot, and we don't do this on a normal schedule time. Those days, for me, at least for me, it feels like something is missing, something's out of line. And I was trying to keep looking at my compass, hey, what am I supposed to do right now? It's like, so that's the thing is once you instill a certain habit, a certain principle, whenever you get distracted, it's essentially a signal, a radar that tells you, hey, you're not in the same realm of whatever that you in control. So it should let you know. You should know that you're distracted. And a lot of times, we can't really control what happens to us, just because we just don't. Things just happen. And sometimes we will push, things happen to us. I think if you understand your the habits that you would really, really like to keep, whatever that habit is, just like a Mexican fisherman or like me, I just do the same thing every day. Or what Chris does everything every day. You ask him, tell me a story. Well, nothing to tell. That if and then when Chris started to tell about his story, he said, okay, you guess what? I got COVID. Then okay, my AC broke down. He is telling a story, but behind that story is the suffering, is the this distraction that he got. So to me, having a story isn't always going to be the best thing for a person. So it always depends. So I think for me, it's like once you get to a normal day, like Tuesday with Mores or the Mexican fisherman or what Chris and I do every day, to me, that is what I'm looking forward to. And like I say, not everybody's going to be at that real cycle immediately, but eventually you're going to get to that point and you're going to feel like this is the kind of life that life is good. Life is comfy. Life is what I want. I'm content with. And having that, I think once you do that, and then having the distraction that you have that kind of like veer off your path, you're gonna miss some aspect of it. And when you do that, just remind yourself that hey, there is a certain things that I don't want, right? Even though I may want it temporarily, does it still align with my core values? And this is what we talked about in the past: is like how your core value, use your core values as a compass, and the compass will get you back to where you're supposed to be. And I think having the distractions is going to, I guess it's unavoidable at times. Just like when you get COVID, it's not like, hey, I want COVID or anything like that, or my AC broke or something like that. It's not like you want to, but it happens. But at the same time, for one is that you're out of your elements. And second is like what Chris was saying, there are certain things that it is tolerable just because that this is not what you're gonna stay in, and you're gonna go back to where you're supposed to be, and your core values allow you to endure that displacement of your state of being, of where your elements or environment it's most compatible, most fitting.
Yeah, I agree. So what do that's I totally agree with you. I think the key thing that when I'm remembering this one and or sharing this with you all is you can take away what I do. Like it doesn't matter what I do every single day as long as I'm doing stuff that I love to do with my daughter. Like even this conversation right
But
now,
that's the
right?
thing is,
Like
but the thing is that's once you understand your core values. Hey, I am this kind of person. Because you think about it, a Mexican fisherman doesn't become a Mexican fisherman overnight. He is wise in his, phases in life. He's understand what he wants, what's important to him. Hey, I want to play with my children. That's important to him. That's why he say, well, that's included in there. I want to have, stroll down the village and talk to my buddies and this. So he knows what's important. So once you understand the core values that you're supposed to have, and whenever you going to get distracted, you not distracted but displaced, like for you, Chris, you get displaced from your home. But because you get displaced from your home, you still your activity still points towards the activities that is aligned to your core values. That's why you're able to endure any kind of random displacement that happens to you. Because if you look at other people who doesn't have, and it's always something happening to them and they always react to it, then they are basically, the at the whim of this randomness. because you react to everything that's there, and so you have no idea where you're supposed to go. And whenever it does, and nothing happens to you, is if you get kicked in one direction, that direction they continue to go down, right? So if for example somebody say, well, somebody robbed me, so they don't understand what kind of person they want to be, what kind of man they want to be. Then they say, well, because somebody robbed me, I'm going to rob someone else, because that direction they get kicked in. Or somebody lied to them, they're going to lie back. And no one's going to say, I'm going to stand on my ground and say I have integrity, so even if people lie to me, I will not lie. So does anyone can do that without knowing what they're supposed to be, what kind of person they want to be? If you know the kind of person you want to be, even though you get displaced, even though you get scammed, I can go and scam your friends just because you get scammed by some people on the internet. So having the core values means just that you are not lost, even though you displaced from the location of where you are supposed to be, but you know how to get back to it. And because of that, eventually you're going to get back to where you need to be.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'd love to hear your thoughts. So jump in here. What do you think about
whether we talk about core values or kind of doing the same thing every day? I think of the Atomic Habits book, and it's easy to do things once you really create an identity for yourself. The core values are just things that you identify with. This is just what I do every day. This is the story I tell myself who I am. And it makes me think about, well, what if you actually just woke up tomorrow, and someone else's brain got put in your brain, and you would be you would be in like disarray. And like, I like you were talking about what fisherman is it? What is it called?
The Mexican fisherman.
The Mexican fisherman. I mean, like that person designed their life because I mean, sure, there is going to be like things that are changing in the world, but it's important to take care of yourself in terms of like knowing how to structure your day, because really we are it's the whole classic thing. Sure, we are the designers of our life. And I think though maybe I can get too rigid. There's like I don't know. There's the classic yin yang. I love the yin yang thing. It's sort of that like line between the two. I can liken it to just kind of this balance between order and chaos. It's kind of nice to have an engaged life. Is sort of a life that's one foot in order and one foot in kind of some disorder, and kind of like surfing that wave right there. To me, that's an engaged life. But it really just comes down to like, I mean, everybody gets to choose how they want to live their life. And I do believe in the concept of distractions, because I think emotions can just be really distracting. And you can get pulled like, oh, that person was a jerk to me, so I'm going to go be a jerk. So the questions here, what do you do when distractions feel like they're pulling you away from your purpose? Like whether they're core values or identity, or for me, I have this isn't it, but I have on my list, whether it's daily habits I like to do or my goals. And sure, those like morph over time, but like I think just having some grounding and having some story that you can habitually tell yourself, one just makes we all need something to sort of pull us into the future, and that can be our identity. Oh, I am Chris here, so I know what I'm going to do tomorrow, and without a concept or a construct pulling us into the future, it can be debilitating, I think. And so that's why we like stories. We like to be able to tell ourselves things, because it just creates a comfort about the future, and then we know where we're going. And if you want to build something, you kind of have to have that. Is it okay for a person to live a wanderous life and not be tied down to any values and do whatever they want? Sure, that's fine. Everybody gets to choose the life they live, but I think all three of us.
It's exhausting. It's not fun. I mean, it can be fun. It's a roller coaster.
More of a roller coaster, but I think all of us, sure, we like the peaks and valleys, but I think in my life, I find that I would rather have like a chill roller coaster, through life, rather than some really dips and sways. So I think just having that more storyline about who I am, and as I continually though, because I mean, I'm constantly changing though, whether I'm reading a new book and thinking new concepts. So I think it's important for myself to say, hey, like, what's new? Like, I guess I think about when someone asks me that question, there is going to be new things that are, going on or percolating or maybe questioning. And, whether it's like that. I love that. I think you guys read that one book, What a Beautiful Question, like ask yourself those beautiful questions and allow that balance between the yin and yang to like surf the course of life and take that wave where, none of us know where we're going to be at in 5 years, but I do think still like though coming back to that story and in writing the story that we want to, so we aren't distracted, but we're like
Indistractable.
indistracted, or like we're the creators of our life, I guess. I think just coming
Right,
back to
right.
that let's be
I mean,
the creators of our life.
Purpose driven. I mean, that's what
I think that's even just from that last book I read about just like on the importance of purpose over happiness, because like purpose gives us meaning, more than happiness will give us meaning. And so and purpose comes from like the stories that we tell ourselves and our identity. So anyway, I think it's a great concept to keep us all focused so that more people can have a less distracted life and continue to do things like you do, Chris, like enjoying spending the time with your daughter, just spending doing the habits that you like to do so that you feel fulfilled in life and you have purpose.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I love everything you just said, honestly, because I totally agree with it all. And not only, I want to make it clear though, like when we say we're not doing anything new, like we're doing a lot of stuff new. There's a ton of new things that have been learned today. Amelia and I learned a lot about a lot of new things today. Some days it's a shitload of stuff. Some days it's a little bit of stuff. The run we went on today was brutal because we did a stupid workout yesterday where I decided it was so nice outside. I was going to go, for the first time, do like a full on, Tabata, like really strong hit workout or whatever. And my legs, even though I work out every day, my legs felt shot today. So like the run was a struggle, but I was like reminding myself the entire time of like, hey, make sure you're checking the castle because the fucking day was beautiful, and like that run was unique because I was in pain, but like I slowed myself down, enjoyed myself with my daughter, listened to our book while we were on a run, etc., and like learned some new stuff. And then we get this conversation, it's totally different. Like, I mean, I don't know what we were going to talk about 5 minutes before we started talking about this. I just read my own reflection and and then we had a conversation. I get to enjoy the stuff with you guys, and then all the stuff that happened in the middle of the day like was totally new. You know what I mean? Like to say that we don't do new things every day, like is a
Well, there's newness within
like,
like we do these podcasts every day, and I mean, we are at 2:33, and Chris and I were talking about this, and we basically don't want this to end, and I don't even look forward to the ending of it, because the thing is, we do this the same thing every day, almost at the same time every day. But that's the thing is, what do you do? Oh, I did a podcast, right? So what we're talking about in the past, Chris, what was it? You remember the social media lesson we talked about, something about, how you have to be, forgot what was, it's essentially like, on social media, you tell people that you did a lot of stuff, but a lot of them is just bluff, right? But the thing is,
inconspicuous consumption versus conspicuous consumption. All right. So conspicuous consumption is when you buy like a Lamborghini and you drive around your neighborhood because you want everybody to see, like, I just conspicuously consumed my wealth so you all can see it. Inconspicuous consumption is spending your money and your wealth on things that you love to do that are more like activities and services and not necessarily like goods and things like that. In theory, you're not supposed to know that I just spent $5,000 on a trip to Greece with my family or something like that, like because we just wanted to go experience Greece or whatever it was. In theory, you're not supposed to know that I spent $1,000 last month on new books. In theory, you're not supposed to know these things. Like this is just me inconspicuously consuming what I like to do, right? But that what True's talking about is social media these days has completely bastardized the idea of inconspicuous consumption, because now it's like inconspicuous conspicuous consumption. So like if you go to the yoga studio every day and get your $5 cup of coffee that normally you would have done for yourself, like, and only for yourself, and nobody would have ever fucking seen that. Now it's like, I got to show everybody that I'm wearing my new Lululemon, $150 yoga pants while I'm on my way to my hot room yoga studio with all my cool friends, and I got my $10 latte on the way there.
Okay.
And there's no mystery to it, because the thing is, you think about the inconspicuous consumption, right? Everything's laid out, there's no mystery in it. Just like when we may mention in that episode about the most interesting man in the world, right? He climbed mountain, he traveled, but you don't know the whole story. He tamed a lion, whatever. You only know just enough to say, well, he did. Let's say, for example, for Chris, right? He say, well, he has a trip to Greece. He doesn't have to tell you about the trip to Greece and all that. He said the only thing you need to know about him is he took some time off for himself and he traveled a bit. That's all you need to know. And you basically know that, hey, Chris has some interest that he takes out time for himself. That's all.
No, if I made it known to you that I took that trip to Greece, I wanted everybody to know, like, hey, I took a trip to Greece. Like, we're really cool. You know what I mean? Like, that's when the inconspicuous becomes conspicuous.
Why do you think people like to let other people know?
because they want them to know. Like, I mean, because it's not enough for them to just feel fulfilled with what they're doing every single day that's aligning to what they care about. Like, now it's a big show, you know? Like, I mean, you would be mortified if somebody went and spent $100,000 on a Rolls Royce and rolled up in your friend group or whatever. You'd be like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? But nobody thinks twice about spending $5,000 on dinner this month because you went from dinner place to dinner place and took a picture of your food that you're eating on Instagram. Or I spent companies like Rent the Runway. You know, you guys ever heard of Rent the Runway? Jen Hyman's company that people go buy high fashion clothes and then they rent them out and then they return them because of social media. They can't take a photo with the same outfit on social media because it's so important. People used to buy high fashion just for themselves, or maybe to wear it out to like a gala or something like that. That was conspicuous consumption. Now it's like, well, if I buy this, I have to show everybody that I have like a, you know, like I see. So like what I think what True was ultimately trying to get to with this whole entire thing is like it's if I don't do what I do with for every day for anybody else but myself and for my daughter, right? You know, like I don't tell you guys know about this stuff because you're a part of that environment, right?
No, it's like
it is the ultimate abstraction. That's my point. Is that, you know, the thing is we do this every day, but there's newness in it. But you know, the thing is, I'm not going to tell you every single thing because the thing is, what's a mystery in it? It's like, we did a podcast, but I'm gonna go out there and I blast to everybody here. You know, we did everything, and this is all things happens to me. Blah blah. My value in this scenario is about like learning, right? I'm learning for myself. Whatever that benefit comes, it is what I want. The thing is, like Chris saying, is the routines is more of like the routine that points to our directions of what we call as our anchors or point of reference. But inside the routine itself has newness. And having the inconspicuous in consumption is the ultimate distraction because you're not doing it for yourself. You're doing it to please others, to buy popularity from other people. View more desirable of you for whatever reason. But the thing, if that doesn't work for one, is even if you drive up to my house with a Rolls Royce or Lamborghini, right? I don't think of you having the ability to buy the Lamborghini. I just say, hey, you know, that Lamborghini is pretty sweet. You know, I imagine myself in it. Your images would never like into my mind. Like whatever you're trying to want me to think of you is not happening. It isn't happening because, right? Because you think about anyone who brings up a Tesla, right? Oh, this Tesla's cool. Like the people is gonna imagine themselves inside a Tesla. They don't imagine the guy who bringing in the Tesla. Yeah. And so having that is the ultimate distraction because you're spending time and effort and resources on things to get other people to think highly of you. And second, it doesn't work. And also the thing is,
it's phony. It's not soul in the game. It's not like but go ahead. So
I think it's a reality though of a pandemic where people are void of their inability to find purpose. Because I don't think it's something that we necessarily teach. Maybe it's just supposed to be like assumed people will be able to find, but our education system doesn't, you know, really say how to find purpose. If our society was able to teach how people could find purpose, I wonder if there would be as much flaunting or people just grasping for a little thing.
But I think you hit the nail on the head.
Yeah,
I think you hit the nail on the head with that because that's what we're trying to. That's our mission, is to get people to say, well, ask the question, what is your purpose? The problem is people don't ask, so they don't know. So when they don't know, when some condition displaces them, they follow that direction. But there's no anchoring, no human device. Because, hey, you know, I was faced west, but I need to go back to east. No one has that until they can understand what kind of person they want to be. What kind of, let's say a kid, you know, what kind of man do you want to be? A girl, what kind of woman do you want to be? And so if a kid doesn't have that thinking yet, he has no anchor. So whenever he gets into a wrong place, he's gonna follow the crowd. There is not there's a very high chance he's gonna do exactly what his friends does. But if he has the ability to know what kind of person he wants to be, he can say no to anything. He can say no to drugs. He can say no to peer pressure. He can no to whatever. And that's like I said, you hit the nail on the head with that. That's the going back, like uncover all these veils. This is what we're trying to get to, is do you know your purpose? Half the question is, what is your purpose? Have that question asked of yourself.
Well, I think we live in too affluent of a society though. Like, I remember one conversation we were having, we're like, oh, you want to go find a purpose? Go find some pain, you know? So, I mean, there's the classic thing that affluent times make weak people, people make hard times make strong people make affluent times. It's a cyclical cycle. People back in the day, I don't think there was this void of purpose because you were fighting for your country or something like that.
Right, because there's no opportunity for that. Because if you in a hard time and somebody is pressuring you on the street, I don't have time for that. I gotta go fight a war. So the thing is, if somebody at home, right, is being oppressed with this, freedom of speech or whatever, like that's tiny compared to the bigger picture of, hey, I gotta protect my country, my family, my fellow man, my countrymen from being invaded. And so if there is some kind of issue with the freedom of speech or some kind of violence at home, no big deal. They're gonna have to take care of themselves. We don't go back as a society and say, okay, oh, what you did there is wrong. We don't actually do that because there's not an opportunity for us to do that. We occupy elsewhere. And so having in a hard time, there's less people going to give the input, and it doesn't drive it because essentially, in a peacetime, you're not solving your own problems. You're not learning a lot of the things you're supposed to be learning. Somebody solve it for you because you say, hey, just give it to the law, and the law will take care of it, right? Mm-hmm. When I grew up, we were poor, right? My parents are working like 2 jobs, and so if I have some kind of issue with my brothers, right, or I have some kind of issue with homework or whatever, so if I were to get mad at my brother, we duke it out. We duke it out. We get into fight. So, like for me, it's like you can punch me a couple of times, I won't go down that easy, because I have been trained to get hit in the face many times. So that's the thing is my parents aren't at home to say, hey, don't do that, or even prevent it from happening in the first place. I mean, it didn't escalate up to the point where we broke each other's arm. And same thing with homework, right? Geez. I mean, I broke both my arms, like, when I was young. I was bad kid, but actually bad kid, a very, very bad kid. But like I say, I've learned it because my parents are working. There's more important things than, to kind of like structure your kid and make sure they don't fire, to make sure they don't. Like for me, it's like I do my own homework, I take care of everything else. So it's not like there's a parent for you there to say, hey, do this homework, do that. Because when kids get too easy, they didn't have to experience the cycles of making decisions for themselves. So they have less of a practice and training. Mm-hmm. And therefore, when they get older, they become novice in terms of handling the situations.
I agree.
Like purpose, in my opinion, takes the decision-making process out of it. Like you don't have a decision to make. Like it's either you do it or you don't do it. There's no
accept the calling or you don't, right? You accept the calling or you don't.
Exactly. When something external is presented to you, you either say, like, I've told you guys this multiple times on this whole journey. You guys have seen this with me through this journey. Like when Felicia was in the hospital for 92 days, or when Amelia was in the hospital, or when Felicia was in the hospital for multiple days or whatever, I still found ways to do everything that I wanted to do. It didn't matter what environment it was because I didn't have a choice. It was like, oh, okay, well, we're in a new environment. Let's figure out this new wrinkle that got thrown into it. It was no different in this scenario. Like, this one was extended and I wasn't expecting it. So I wasn't prepared for it, to be honest with you. Like all these things just kept getting like, and finally I was like, Jesus Christ, like, when can I even just get like 5 seconds to like, get my bearings together to be able to make the decision of what I need to do to make sure that I can recalibrate in this environment. But I get long story short though, I don't really think of it as a yes or no decision. It's either if I'm presented with something, it's that way, or it's nothing else. You know what I mean? Like there's only one path that gets illuminated for me, like, but when
it's either it's a line or it doesn't align. I mean,
exactly.
That's just the thing. There's no debate, just like you say, well, if you go and ask the questions about, what would Jesus do? You basically use him as a point of reference. And the thing is, if Jesus were to steal and to kill, whatever, you know that he does it. So there's no debate in whether you should steal something. If you ask the question or you use something as a point of reference, right? As an example of what would Jesus do? And that actually say, well, it aligns or it doesn't align. So there's no debate between your angel on your shoulder and your devil on your shoulder. You don't have no internal debate. You say, well, it's not what Jesus would do and I won't do it, or it would be what Jesus would do and I will do it. So having purpose is exactly like that. What kind of a person you want to be, what kind of a character that you want to embrace. And you say, well, if I'm doing this, does this aligned with that image or it isn't.
And everything else is a distraction. Like, and that's the whole point, right? Is when you don't have that decision making. Now, and to be clear, like, I'm not saying one's good or bad, to be honest with you. Like, I don't know. All I'm saying is there's a clear difference between purpose or not purpose. And I'm not saying being distracted is bad.
Because I would also say, I mean, there was, so from the Distractible book that I think it was called, was, looking at a distraction. So I think, one thing that's important in terms of mindfulness or just being present is like taking everything as it is at face value and seeing like, well, is this distraction actually going to serve me, or is it going to take me away from my purpose?
Exactly. And that's what I was saying in this whole entire thing was the distraction test. That's what, like, this was a great reminder for me to build into my own routine with my daughter, to make sure that we check in every single week, to make sure that we aren't distracted. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, that's what I was kind of ultimately getting at with, when I'm spending time with her on Sundays, sometimes it's a quick conversation. It's like, yeah, it was a great week, Amelia. Like, I mean, it was loved what we did, and feel like we're good. Some days, some weeks, it's like this shit that's going on where it's like, all right, all this is going on. Let's make sure that we stay focused and just sit back and take a second to think about it together. Because most days I can do it on autopilot. Not to say that I'm on autopilot. I'm saying most of the times, like my decision, like you've mentioned with Atomic Habits, the life has been built around making sure that these things are able to be done easily and just naturally aligned. Right. When that gets taken away, then I have to start to really think. It makes me have to problem solve a little bit, right? And like,
probably
this is
good,
right,
whatever. It not good,
right? Exactly, yeah. So I mean, this is a forever debate that Drew and I have been having for the past, however long we've been talking about stuff every single night of like, the purpose versus non-purpose. Like, do you even want it sometimes, or do you not want it? Like, I'm literally of the boat sometimes of like, I don't know, the purpose is all that great sometimes. Ignorance is bliss, and distraction can be great.
But I'm honestly, you have to have a purpose, because the thing is, I don't have control over what I'm made of. I was created in a way that the gene has, like you were referring earlier in this episode, is we're talking about happiness versus fulfillment, right?
Yeah.
That's what makes us want to do the next thing. So it's not the happiness, not the content of whatever that is. It's just the fulfillment. Is if you were given a certain characteristic, right? You have to express that gene. You have to fulfill it. Like if you are a fish, you yearn to swim. You yearn to be in the water. It fulfills that gene, that characteristics. And so whatever that you are, whatever gene that happens that make up you, that is something you must be. And when you be that, it fulfills it. If you don't, then it's like something is not right. It's not aligned. It's like when you say quote unquote calling. The word calling is kind of confusing, but it's a calling. It's whatever that you're supposed to be. Then you need to do that, because like we're talking about a donkey, right? But we're running with Sherman, a donkey, right? He has the characteristic to be galloping in the field. That's when to gallop in the field is to exert energy and to waste more energy. Why would somebody do that? But he feels alive when he's able to go gallop, but he feels like sickening and debilitating when he was sheltered from the elements. And so that, to me, that's purpose, because for something else that is not, doesn't have his gene, for him to go galloping and to be in the wild, that isn't fulfilling for that creature. It's opposite. And so whatever that you're supposed to be doing, the activity that fulfills that given set of gene patterns or whatever it is, that's the purpose. That's the thing you have to do.
Yeah, but this is the big rub of this whole debate between you and I, is I 1000% agree with what you just said, but it's where does purpose come from? And for me, my purpose came from a very painful thing. And I don't want other people to have to go through very, very painful things in order to find that running through the field and feeling good, feeling, right? Like for me, it's where does purpose come from? If purpose came from positive, happy place, then I'm all for it.
Purpose, right? I mean,
Sure.
I like to think that I have a purpose and I'm living that way, but I don't have the time that you have. And I don't, I mean, the thing is, I don't know if you can endure the kind of time that you had, but that doesn't deters me from having my own purpose. And so to me, the purpose doesn't come strictly from pain and suffering. I think purpose comes from some kind of combination of realizing the kind of things that makes you like fulfilled. That maybe that's the wrong word, but it's like Because the thing is, in the beginning, I was just like you, hustling and bustling. I was like doing all kind of things, running 200 miles an hour. But then at some point, when I'm doing that, I mean, I'm doing that for like a long, long time. So that becomes a habit. But that habit did not stick. It get worse and worse and worse. And it gets
It
to the
comes
point where I just basically say, well, all of the years I've spent being this person, I'm willing to give it all up. Basically, you get to the point where you hit the brick wall and say, I am willing to give it all up. I don't
well,
want it anymore.
that,
Right.
and
And
that's
so
what
the thing is,
yeah.
I mean, it's not really an atomic bomb per se, but because the purpose wasn't there, eventually something is going to gnaw at you and say, well, are you where you supposed to be? And
Gonna
once you
say
start
is it,
exploring that question, then I
there you
think
go.
purpose will surface.
I was gonna say it comes from what Snow was saying earlier. It's whatever your beautiful question is. I don't know where that comes from. It could come from pain, it could come from whatever. But when you find that beautiful question that you just can't get out of your mind, and you got to go keep exploring and exploring and exploring.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly that. From
yeah.
the beautiful question, but the beautiful question could come from pain or other places. This doesn't have to come from pain. I think when you're having pain, you're more likely to ask the more beautiful question. Is I'm suffering too much. It's too much pain for me to handle. Am I doing the right thing? You're starting to ask the beautiful questions. It forces you to ask the question, and the probability of people asking the questions are more probable. But that doesn't mean that's the only way to do it. And that's what I'm saying is, for us, we don't have to always be looking for pain to find our purpose. Because if you do that, you basically pay a high price. It's a very steep price to pay. I don't know about you, Chris, but from my perspective, reading your book is a huge price. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I thought. Yeah,
No,
you just had
yeah,
it.
no, but it's already been said though.
Oh.
What was it? I want to know.
Well, at least like I mean, I was thinking like, yeah, you didn't have to necessarily go through like hypothetical. You didn't have to go through what you went through to get that purpose that you're on now. Like, sure, that led you, I feel like, down this path of living your values, et cetera, et cetera. But I think kind of like Tree was saying, like, I mean, people can end up finding their purpose through anyway, but like, the pain can sort of like jumpstart people into like some questioning and asking that beautiful question. But I guess just kind of like agreeing with Tree's point that yeah, you could end up creating, yeah, whatever purpose you want to. You could be the director of it, but it doesn't have to come through some pain. But like you say, in your case, it really did solidify or made you question things, and then you were able to solidify more like your purpose in life.
I mean, I think I can understand from your perspective, Chris, because you already pay a very, very steep price for your purpose, and you're questioning, is that worth it? You know what I'm saying? Because you
It's
already pay an expensive price for that purpose. And sometimes you say, well, maybe I shouldn't have a purpose because maybe it's too painful at times.
it's incredibly like harder to. I would rather if it meant that my daughter was still here. Like, there's not even a debate in my mind, like whether or not,
Exactly.
like whether I would rather have that or not. Like, this is so the biggest difference though that I have to like keep harping on is like, I get what you guys are saying. It could be in theory possible, like, but the difference is like when shit like this happens, when distractions pop up, like there's something that's so seared into my brain that I can't get out of it, that because of the pain, right? Like, I don't know that if there was something that like maybe I asked a beautiful question one time, or something like that like captivated me. But does it captivate you through being in the hospital for 96 days and being completely out of your element? Does it captivate you through being displaced from your home while you're dealing with COVID and all this other stuff? Does it make you wake up every single day and go, like, this has to happen? I can't not do that. I don't know that there's anything else other than what I'm talking about from what my side of the house is that I can think of that would make me stay on that course every single day, no matter fucking what. Like, I mean,
I think there are, but it's gonna be rare in terms of that particular drive, right? Some people just know what they're supposed to be, and so the thing is, it's how much indentation in the earth, like i.e. your brain connections, right? How much indentation that is. The stronger that connection is, the stronger you will to go down that path. You become more aligned. Because the thing is, when you have the atomic bomb, anything that you do, whether is to run one extra mile and to eat one less candy bar, to you, that act it is so insignificant compared to what you have seen. So that is your perspective. Your perspective on life has changed. And so, yes, I really agree with you that having the pain give you the deep steering connections to whatever that you knew, and you have this perspective. Anything that even if you say, hey, I got fired today, you say, no problem. You have this signal, right? It register. It is so tiny compared to the huge signal that you had. That signal masks everything. And so for you to say, hey, my AC broke, yeah, I'll go to my parents. If I can't write in my desk, I'm gonna go write the corner of the kitchen or write in the laundry room or whatever. To you, that's nothing. That's perspective. But that doesn't mean that only having that perspective. Other people may have whatever the reason. They may say, well, I need to be this because of this or because of what I've seen or whatever. Because like last time, let's say a person becomes a doctor because their grandma has some kind of disease, and because they have a deep connections with, but some people don't. Some people have people die all around and didn't do anything with it. I mean,
then it wasn't painful. I guess that's my point. Is like almost every single amazing person in this world that you see that does like crazy shit. I'm not saying that that's who I want to be or something like that, but I'm saying like the people that you look at that either get to a certain point or they do stupid shit that you're like, why the hell do they do that every single day? Like how did they do that every single day? Like it almost always if you dig deep enough, there's some.
But that's what I'm saying though. The thing is, I don't agree with the fact that you have pain. I'm saying that if you have the gene that once you do a certain thing, you cannot stop it. Right?
No, I agree. It accelerated me toward what I already wanted to do anyway.
The thing is, your gene has becoming a change. But I'm saying that if you don't have a particular gene that is preference of one thing or another, you basically in the middle. You basically like morphing into different things. So that's difficult for you to maintain your path. But if somebody was born with a certain gene, they have to do that. So, for example, if somebody is like, okay, I have to eat, right? The person eats, they become like the insatiable, right?
Well,
so the thing.
This is a good barometer. Snow's known me for 20 years now, almost. Like on the surface level and our conversations, do you think that I'm any different?
Do I think you're any different
than when you first met me and when you first knew me and when we've lived together, we've done other things together, we've known each other since we were 18 years old? Do you when you talk to me, or not talk to me, but when you just see me and how I interact and how I engage and how I live my life or whatever, like, is it that crazy of a difference in my life? And I mean, I honestly, I agree. And this is what I was going to say is like, it didn't change. What I'm describing to you didn't change me. It just accelerated me down one path.
And I agree with that. And that's your gene. It's not, the only thing that makes you do is it makes you become this like 2x, Chris 10x. It doesn't change you to a different person because of the pain.
I 1000% agree with that.
Gene, you're competitive in the beginning. You are more competitive now. So I'm saying your gene dictates what you do. And so if somebody has a gene that wants to be this super competitive guy without having the pain, he still be super competitive, right? If he was born like 10x, Chris 10x, then that's what he's going to be, Chris 10x. If he's born with extra, let's say whatever the gene that you have right now, the state of the gene that you have right now, if you give him the exact same gene, he becomes exactly like you. He's going to be exactly as super competitive, as super focused as you are now. So it did not change you. It just enhances the person that you were.
No, I agree. I guess the big thing I was even
that's what I'm saying is it's dictated by a gene, not dictated by the pain.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's definitely a topic we're going to continue to explore, right? Because it's an interesting question, obviously. So we can keep exploring. It's a beautiful question. Let's keep talking about it. Fun conversation as always. Thanks, Snow, from joining from the far away lands of Washington.
It's easy by bedtime.
Awesome, man. Well, you have a great rest of your vacation, and we will see you all.
Yep.
All right. All right. We'll see you all Monday.
We're sad already.
Yeah.
Okay,
See you guys. Bye.